What do legends want? Weeks before his death, rock stopped beating. Rock's biggest voice and heavy metal godfather, Ozzy Osbourne, was killed. Music ended when he died at 76. Ozzy was more than a musician. Revolution and storm, man who ruled chaos with fire. Death shattered generations. Fans wept, friends froze, and family, it felt like time paused. But the evil prince died violently. Leave loud, brave, and memorable. He made a raw, unexpected request in his final weeks that even his closest pals didn't expect. His long-standing love, Sharon, may grant his last request. Raise your thumb before we start to commemorate the Prince of Darkness. The last weeks at home were quiet. The draperies on their rural mansion rustled in a soft wind. But inside, time seemed to slow down, as if the earth was holding its breath. Daily, Sharon sat by him holding his hand. Because his body couldn't keep up with his ideas, Ozzy, rock's craziest voice, talked in low tones. Cruel Parkinson's. It entered his body at night, robbing strength, control, and movement. Brutal and unfair. Men who jumped over stages in black leather and lightning rifts needed help sitting up. Occasionally, he could barely lift a spoon. He was unusually honest about lighting stadiums on fire. He said, "This body's broken, but the brain's still partying." He wanted tea every morning. Tea and Sharon. No painkillers or doctors. They spent hours at times silent, sometimes lost in time. He switched decades. Aston childhood, cold, sooty streets, conflicts, hunger. Fearful, unrehearsed, and energized, he laughed at his first gig. He liked the Storm brothers, Tony, Geezer, and Bill, who helped him establish the genre. Then his voice broke. His furious daughter Kelly was discussed. Jack, rock steady, even grandkids, Amy, quiet power, promised Sharon one night, almost inaudibly. The fire will be remembered, not the flicker. Sharon lip-bit. Her support got him through addiction, relapses, and turbulent and brilliant nights. He had rebuilt himself, she saw. Never as such. Rarely weak, but energetic. Body quit, but guy within didn't. Her moment was unforgettable. Late June 2025, from the window, they watched the estate at night. Red sky. Ozzy looked ahead with sharper eyes than Weeks. He murmured, "I don't want them to remember a wheelchair-bound man. Not their sadness. A final roar. It began here. It went beyond ask, appeals, a vow, a lifelong defier of gravity rebels one final time. No Sharon tears, then number. Her nod was easy. Her job was 1, 2. Make dying desires eternal. The next morning, she called. Still ones, strategic. Walking was hard for Ozzy, let alone touring. Maybe she could light his fire overnight. Would a broken body dominate? Prince of Darkness, a final return. She didn't know. Ozzy, fire and thunder lingered despite his failing body and carried his ultimate wish. Sharon Osbourne was more than a wife for 40 years. Ozzy's strongest protector, anchor, and second act creator. He alone saw every storm and resurrection. She helped him through bleach-scented hospital corridors, tears-filled interventions, screaming battles, relapse nightmares, and triumphant comebacks. Chaos Ozzy. Sharon was tough. The roles were reversed for the first time. Her challenge was chaos. Her duty to turn a whispered dream into a stunning goodbye. Even her children didn't know. She protected it from the wind like a secret flame. It was impossible, doctors claimed. It was risky, friends said. Even Ozzy begged her to forget it when doubtful. "Sharon, I'm done." One night, he shouted, "Don't trick me," merely shaking her head. Not finished. No sooner than the music stops, she pushed harder than ever privately. She petitioned managers, producers, and medical professionals to approve one night under close monitoring. Every step was a fight. Sharon was unfazed. That moment had power, she believed. Ozzy and everyone who loved him may find relief. She wasn't merely following a death wish. She fulfilled his final wish. She was breathing in his last words, a melody. She helped Ozzy practice in whispers when he could no longer walk. When his lungs struggled, she told him to keep speaking, even if it cracked. She whispered, "Let the world hear your goodbye," wrapping her hands around his, while his tremors made holding a microphone feel like lifting stone. Sharon called LA doctors, coordinated set lists, and begged specialists for permission to murder him on those silent nights. Ozzy was dying. His exit mattered more, in performance as a legend, not in silence in a hospital bed. Sharon realized that with every heartbeat. Because Sharon didn't just want Ozzy to perform one last time. A dying individual should have the decency to choose his end. Even if it meant using his last light, he wanted to shine one last time. It was about reclaiming the Prince of Darkness as a storm that could still shake the heavens, not as a patient or ghost. She revived his team. Stadium was her choice. She managed all camera angles, fireworks, and nighttime moments. General-like precision and grieving wife-like heart. That was her secret. It was sacred, not surprising. Not only a concert was her farewell gift, powerful and painful, it was a resurrection and thunderous goodbye. She kept her voice when she stood before him days before the concert, holding the whole plan in shaky hands. Happening now. Eindam July, Birmingham, Votre Soir, Roaring. One final, Ozzy. Despite his tiredness and years of suffering, his weary eyes caught a glimpse of something nearly heavenly. Just before dying, he sang his soul out, returned to discover why that final performance mattered so much, returned to the start. Because Ozzy Osbourne's final wish wasn't only singing, it was about redeeming a broken life and succeeding in its final verse. Raw, violent, and uncompromising, his story was never about celebrity, using sound to survive. Born John Michael Osbourne on December 3, 1948, in Aston, a harsh Birmingham working class district. Ozzy grew up in poverty, soot, and factory noise. No frills in his home. His family survived. He battled bullying, self-esteem, and an undetected dyslexia at school, leaving him disoriented. He slept on concrete floors in prison for burglary at 17, fearing he had no future. The society had almost written him off. Even in the darkness, he heard music, not simply hearing. He clung to it for survival. No escape with music. Oxygen. Tony Iommi, Geyser Butler, and Bill Ward followed in 1968. Ozzy founders Black Sabbath, which changed music and history. Their 1970 debut album was unique, dreadful, primordial. After critics ignored it, disillusioned youngsters heard something real. Heavy metal's soul sprang from Ozzy's sorrow, anarchy, and raw reality. Sabbath went beyond music. It spoke for outcasts, broken and misunderstood. What about Ozzy? They called him Prophet. Iron Man, War Pigs, Paranoid. More than music. Invisible youngster's battle cry. Despite his flight, Ozzy's turmoil never subsided. Demons pursued him and stole his fame. In 1979, Sabbath sacked him for substance misuse and unstable conduct. Many as you know me, that was the end, but Ozzy changed endings. Blizzard of Oz, released in 1980 with Randy Rhoads and a new band, saved his career and made him a solo legend. Anthem. Crazy Train. Mr. Crowley's gothic masterwork Diary of a Madman showed he was thriving. Like no other rock voice, he carried wildness, melody, sorrow, and awe. His tour was unrelenting, stumbled, relapsed, broke down, and got up. As always, music played. In 1991, No More Tears showcased his lyrical and vocal ability. Mama, I'm Coming Home, a 1992 metal song, was sincere. An ode to Sharon and redemption. A Grammy winner. He entered the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with Sabbath and Solo. He received stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and in Birmingham, another city that had forgotten him. However, Ozzy's influence went beyond music. A new generation discovered him on MTV's The Osbournes in 2002. He let the chaotic, strangely relatable world into their home with Sharon, Jack, and Kelly. Watchers saw the Prince of Darkness and a forgetful, witty, compassionate father who struggled with parenting. Very raw, very funny, very revolutionary. Ozzy transcended rock. He became famous. One thing stayed constant through all the awards, honors, and headlines. Never stopped singing. After falls, surgeries, tremors, diagnosis, no. Not after revealing his Parkinson's in 2020. My last 4 years were horrible. He claimed in an honest interview that his health was poor. However, he continued. He returned to chart and heart dominance with patient number 9 in 2022. The legacy of Ozzy Osbourne goes beyond his music. He gave millions of misfits hope. Every kid who felt unseen and heard their fury and anguish in his cry. Successive generations of musicians owe their sound, fire, and defiance to the Birmingham man who refused to go quietly. He saved, empowered, and persevered with his song. He begged Sharon for one last performance for more than nostalgia. The ritual was sacred. After 50 years, a heart stopped beating. He asked the stage to give him back again after giving everything. When that night came and 40,000 people raised their hands, the opening notes of "Mama, I'm coming home" boomed around Villa Park, making history, legacy. The last note of a life that had transformed anguish into power, noise into purpose, and metal into immortality. One city was at the focus of Ozzy Osbourne's unwitting final curtain. Birmingham, not NYC or LA. Heavy metal began in his hometown. Birmingham remembered Ozzy too, embraced him. It gave him the grand farewell that a city can give its most iconic son, opening its arms, streets, and spirit. The summer of Sabbath was a months-long celebration that turned the industrial city into a live shrine to its most famous voice. In May through July 2025, Birmingham was alive with music, murals, and recollections. Holy Ozzy was honored and consecrated. The tributes abounded. Lampposts have Ozzy's face banners. Buildings were adorned in murals reflecting his onstage fire and offstage charm. Just one act or gesture stood out, changing one of the city's main bridges to Osbourne Bridge. Bridge wasn't enough. It connected an Aston boy's hard past to his immortality. Under the new sign, admirers took selfies, lit candles, and left scribbled notes. A detailed bronze statue of Ozzy mid-performance depicted him with mouth open in defiance and hands lifted in triumph. Not merely a tribute, city history was reckoned with. Ozzy ran from Birmingham, a town that didn't understand him and labeled him a dropout. The city rose up to hold him, praise him, and unknowingly prepare to mourn him in his dying weeks. Daily local radio played Sabbath classics. His work was studied in music classes. Many city buses displayed LED signage thanks to Ozzy. Then came fans. British, American, South American, and European waves arrived. A few drove days. Flights covered thousands of miles. Tattoos, vinyl albums, and patched leather jackets were theirs. Using canes, elderly fans held original Paranoid copies. Young people had Crazy Train lyrics tattooed on their arms. In Ozzy t-shirts, 3 generations stood cheek to shoulder, some crying before reaching the concert gates. Villa Park, the final concert site, became a pilgrimage attraction. Even with banners, music, and fanfare, no one knew what was coming. Sharon, remaining mute, never hinted that this was more than a party. I said farewell. Family members sensed a change. Interviews showed a subdued Ozzy. His pace slowed. Behind his smile was a gloom. Thus, Birmingham, in all its magnificence and commotion, mistakenly prepared for a eulogy as well as a performance. The innocent joy made it much more heartbreaking. Little kids danced to unfamiliar melodies. "Mama, I'm coming home." Couples hugged. Cafes close played music. Random strangers shared Aussie stories in bars, buses, and sidewalks. Music, nostalgia, and hope filled the city. Hope that the Prince of Darkness will roar again and keep roaring. Sunsets typically lead to storms, and this one did too. Sabbath summer would be remembered as a tribute, prophecy, and lovely peace before the unthinkable. Birmingham would lament and revive Ozzy's legacy 17 days after that amazing night at Villa Park. Despite all the places he conquered, stages he ruled, and hearts he broke, only Birmingham knew him. Beyond a concert, legendary last heartbeat. 40,000 people witnessed an unforgettable moment on July 5th, 2025, under Villa Park's bright lights. As Ozzy Osbourne battled pain, illness, and time, the world watched. Watching him return home was now their task. Osbourne, Sharon. More than a wife and manager, she created a miracle. She accomplished the unthinkable. She reformed Black Sabbath with Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward, the brothers with whom Ozzy started the movement, behind the scenes. That was just the beginning. Sharon called rock legends Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Judas Priest, and Anthrax, who Ozzy helped construct. The Back to the Beginning concert was actually a living requiem, a final play scripted by fate and delivered by love. Fans from around the world came to wave banners, hold records, and wear "Thank You" Ozzy shirts. That stadium appeared to pause time, even though millions watched the live stream. In a historic time, Ozzy appeared, like a king returning to his land, rolled onto the stage, proudly perched on a black steel throne. Thunder and cries poured from the crowd. After one last microphone lift, the Prince of Darkness said, "Mama, I'm coming home." Though worn, his voice rang like lightning. The lyrics say goodbye. A wound reopened with each note. He then sang "Crazy Train," his farewell song. Shivering began with the riff. Ozzy grinned as the crowd roared, a little smile that said, "I belong here." No big speech, no protracted goodbye, just a nod, tears, and stillness. Finally, fireworks rose in tribute, not celebration. Not just a concert. A steel and sound farewell created in remembrance and melody. Sharon gave Ozzy something. No doctor, no cure. Miracles cannot. The final say. The singer of madness, pain, and salvation worshipped on this stage. This night, his forgiveness. He locked eyes with Sharon as sparks fell from the heavens, as if to say, "I'm home. Free now." 17 days after the world-shaking Back to the Beginning event, Ozzy Osbourne died on July 22nd, 2025. The man who inspired generations, defied death, and made chaos legend was gone. He didn't disappear at night. The shout of praise continued as he exited on his own terms. The folks who knew him as Dad, husband, and Ozzy were at his bedside. Sharon remained still, holding his hand. Their children, Jack, Kelly, and Amy, accompanied her. Room still. No heartbreaking goodbyes, only silent tears, joined fingers, and a mutual belief that he had found peace. Sharon will recall that he glanced at me one last time, her voice cracking, and I knew. No words were needed. His eyes showed it. He prepared. World wasn't. The morning news sent shockwaves worldwide. Astonished, millions paused from Tokyo to Toronto. Memories, tributes, and greetings flooded social media immediately. In almost 60 countries. "Thank you, Ozzy," topped the charts. It went beyond trend. It flooded with pain and thankfulness. Fans burned candles, played his music loudly, and held spontaneous vigils outside his former venues. Many felt they lost their youth, rebellion, and identity. Early responder Sir Elton John posted a black-and-white shot of him and Ozzy backstage in the 1980s. He was a rebel poet in leather and eyeliner, a friend, and a supernatural power. He wrote that the world is colder. Rod Stewart said he was the kindest, loudest soul. The simple but moving homage was by Paul McCartney. The legends live on. They resound. Your legacy will last, Ozzy. His longtime bandmate and brother-in-arms, Tony Iommi, uploaded a photo from their final rehearsal. "It's unbelievable," he wrote. "My beloved Ozzy is gone. The frenzy, laughter, music, a lifetime together. This is the last." A full-length tribute video from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame chronicled Ozzy's rise from Birmingham's backstreets to the world stage. BBC Radio aired a 10-hour marathon of his greatest hits with interviews and fan letters. The world mourns. Broke ITV's primetime schedule. London's Tower Bridge and Birmingham's Symphony Hall projected Ozzy's figure in candlelight. Times Square displayed his image and "Thank You, Ozzy" on a large tribute screen across the seas. People mourned in cities worldwide. Fans in Sao Paulo assembled a 1,000-person choir to sing "Mama, I'm Coming Home" in Portuguese. In Los Angeles, thousands held an impromptu candlelight vigil on Sunset Boulevard. A huge Shibuya digital billboard in Tokyo projected his name above his famous performance moments. Underground gatherings in war-torn areas showed that Ozzy's voice crossed borders, languages, and governments. The lost, misunderstood, and rebellious found solace in his music. They were returning to say goodbye. Perhaps Sharon's homage was the most haunting. She sat under a soft light in a televised interview 3 days after his death, carrying the wedding ring Ozzy gave her over 4 decades before. Few words from her, but every word quiver with anguish and pride. He desired more than immortality. Always mattering was his goal. So does he. He gave everything even when he had nothing left, she said, holding back tears. That moment, everyone understood. After Ozzy's death, the tale continued. The ballad's final lyric echoed forever. Sharon's trembling shook millions of hearts. Not only had the world lost a rock star, it lost an emblem of perseverance, naked humanity covered in spikes and eyeliner, and a guy who never allowed darkness consume him. Artists of all generations pledged to perform at Ozzy's memorial performances, globally. Metallica renamed their world tour Crazy Train Legacy Tour. Iron Maiden frontman Bruce Dickinson announced a tribute album of rock legends covering Ozzy's greatest hits. In an extraordinary gesture, the Vatican acknowledged his impact on generations. His devotion impacted humanity, despite his unusual techniques. Ozzy's funeral is still being planned. An intimate family and friend event will be followed by a global live televised homage in Birmingham. Sharon requests his admirers burn candles and play his music loudly. She claimed, rather than silence, he wanted volume. He's not gone. His music continues. He is remembered. Each riff, scream, and rule break reflects his influence. Though he died, Ozzy Osbourne is eternal. One thing is certain as the notes end. His departure was loud, leaving in thunder. It was no longer a charity concert at Villa Park. A final personal wish was fulfilled. Ozzy Osbourne's final wish. Sharon did it. She defied medical odds to reunite famous bandmates, gather global rock royalty, and offer her husband what he wanted most: a final performance in his hometown with his fans. Nor was it about fundraising. It was about raising hearts, memories, and commemorating a guy who loved and breathed music till his last breath. Sharon Osbourne quietly and bravely kept Ozzy alive. He left it as an artist, she made sure. Not merely a dream was fulfilled. She saved a flame, fulfilled a legacy, and helped a man die peacefully. The stage lights dimmed, but he remained. He'd transformed. Although Ozzy no longer sings, his voice echoes louder than ever in stadiums, headphones, and millions of hearts screaming his name. Last whisper, ultimate longing, came true. Though wild, reckless, and famous, his death was serene, dignified, and graceful. Final bow from the Prince of Darkness, who transformed chaos into dominion and suffering into power. He left more than music. The story is about resilience, passion that fires even when the body fails, and true, hard-earned, unflinching love. Thanks for continuing with us. You may be witnessing someone who is lost. When a loved one leaves, you may have experienced an indescribable silence. You may have helped in the final hours, like Sharon. Maybe, like Ozzy, you've held on to one last dream. We support you. Unfair life hurts. Death always seems early. Possibly the only comfort is that goodbyes can be lovely when done with affection. Whisper one final time. I appreciate it, Ozzy. I hope the next world is better for you. No more anguish. May your soul rest. May your spirit scream louder. Remember Ozzy Osbourne. You're forever loved.